Greetings, Commanders, Cerebrats, and Executors. In this episode, we are talking about upgrades. So upgrades are, in many ways, very similar to units. You have a building, you press a button, you pay a certain amount of minerals and gas. There's a bar that fills up over time, and when that bar finishes filling up, you get a benefit. Except rather than a unit spawning by the building, the upgrade applies. As you can see, these upgrades take a little while to run. Let me just demonstrate that all upgrades work the same way. You start the upgrade, you wait a while, and eventually it's finished. And they have various different costs. Virtually all upgrades in StarCraft, in fact, I think it's every upgrade in StarCraft, costs the same amount of minerals and gas, unless you want to count things like a lair morphing into a hive as an upgrade. Now, I'm gonna cancel these. I'm gonna turn on the instant research cheat because it takes too long to wait for the upgrades to finish to demonstrate how they work. But I just wanted to make sure that you'd seen that example of you press a button and you have to wait a while for the upgrade to research. So what do upgrades do? Well, they make things better. They improve your units in various ways. One very important fact about how upgrades function is they instantly apply to all relevant units as soon as they finish. Unlike when you build a unit, the unit appears by your building, and when you build a unit, it appears next to the building, and then you have to walk it out onto the map to wherever you want it to be. Upgrades, once they're done, apply to everything right away. For example, this upgrade, the Zealot Leg Enhancements upgrade, makes Zealots run around faster. So I've got a Zealot running, and now I'm going to get the Leg Enhancements upgrade. And you can see the Zealot is visibly much faster moving now. And that applied to all the Zealots I had, not just that one Zealot. Every Zealot I own is now moving faster. There are two main kinds of upgrades in StarCraft, well, actually three. There are the upgrades that give one specific unit type a specific benefit, such as the Zealot movement speed upgrade. There are also, for instance, there's a Dragoon range upgrade, Singularity Charge, makes the Dragoon attack range longer. There's a Zergling movement speed upgrade, there's an Ultralisk movement speed upgrade, there's a Zergling attack rate upgrade, there's a range upgrade for Terran Marines. So there are upgrades that give one specific benefit to one kind of unit. Then, there are upgrades that give a generic benefit to a group of units. These are the weapon and armor upgrades. I talked about weapon and armor upgrades in the previous episode when I was talking about how damage and armor work. Right now, this Zealot's weapon says 16 damage, but if I research the ground weapons upgrade, all Zealots now have 16 plus 2, that's 18 damage total. You can see, because of the way this is displayed, how much damage the unit originally did and how much is being added by upgrades. If I look at my Dragoons, they do 20 damage by default, and they get plus 2 from that one upgrade. If I research another ground weapons upgrade, which notice now I'm being offered to research level 3, remember I turned on the upgrade instantly cheat, so I just press this button and the upgrade happens right away. I don't have to wait for a bar to fill up. But now we're on plus 2 weapons. You can see there's a 2 here showing which upgrade level I'm at, and the Zealot gets 16 plus 4 damage, 20 damage total. So these weapon upgrades usually give you plus about 10% of the unit's original damage per upgrade you research. There are only 3 weapon and 3 armor upgrades for every unit in the game. Well, every combat unit in the game. So once I research this third ground weapons upgrade, I get up to plus 3 weapons, 16 plus 6 damage. There's nothing else here. There's no way to get any higher upgrades. Now, Zerg and Terran have armor upgrades that apply to the various units that they build. Protoss also have armor upgrades, but Protoss have a special extra armor upgrade. See, they've got a general ground armor upgrade, which applies to this armor value here, but they also have a shield armor upgrade. Because everything Protoss has, even buildings, has shields. And those shields have armor on them. The armor of the shields behaves the same way as the armor on a health bar does, that I explained in the armor and damage video just before this one. Where when you attack something, the amount of damage that is done is the unit's original damage output minus the armor value. So if you research these shield upgrades, then it adds armor points to your shields as a Protoss. Ordinarily, shields take full damage from everything. There's no armor reduction on the shields of a Protoss unit or the building, or the shields of a Protoss building. But if you get the Plasma Shields upgrade, then they are armor points on the shields, and the shields do reduce the damage that's coming in using those armor points. But if you want to upgrade the armor that applies to the unit's actual health bar underneath the shields as a Protoss, then you need to get the ground armor upgrade or the air armor upgrade from the Cybernetics Core. Cybernetics Core is where you get your air weapons and air armor as Protoss. Terran and Zerg also have weapon and armor upgrades, they're just on different buildings and they're categorized differently. For instance, Terran have weapon and armor upgrades for their infantry, weapon and armor upgrades for their vehicles, and weapon and armor upgrades for their spaceships. But those are the general, the sort of generic upgrades, the ones that just add damage and add durability to your units. They apply to a lot of units at once, because this weapon upgrade that I've been researching applies both to Zealots and Dragoons. For instance, it also applies to some other Protoss units. And this ground armor upgrade, if I get it, applies to Zealots, it applies to Dragoons, and it also even applies to Probes. Probes do have a weapon, and so do the other workers in the game, but workers, while they have weapons, their weapons do not receive do not receive damage upgrades. Workers do receive armor upgrades, though. So there are unit-specific upgrades, like the Dragoon range or the Zealot speed, there are weapon upgrades, there are armor upgrades, and the last kind of upgrade is the upgrade that unlocks abilities. On spellcaster units, such as High Templar or Dark Archons, they start with most of their abilities unavailable. The Dark Archon does start with an ability available, but it has 2 more abilities that it doesn't have initially. But if you go to the right building, there are upgrades you can research that grant abilities to these units. For instance, if I research this upgrade,
research complete.
Now High Templar have the Psionic Storm ability, which they didn't have before. They can now cast this. So those are the 3 main kinds of upgrades in the game. The fact that upgrades, when they finish, they instantly apply to everything is very helpful. You don't have to wait for newly built units. It's not like only the newest units, only the units you built recently after the upgrade finished actually get the upgrade. Everything gets it immediately, wherever that unit is on the map, if the upgrade applies to that unit. So you can plan your games around, I want to build up this army, and I want to get this upgrade for this army. So I'm going to start the upgrade, and then I'm going to build the army while the upgrade is coming along, because most upgrades take quite a while to research. And then I'll time it out so that my army finishes building at the same time the upgrade finishes researching, and then I go and attack. Upgrades, fairly simple concept, but they do matter a lot. Getting the right upgrades at the right time can make a big difference.